So there's some things we have to get to for sure, just because of the organic nature of this course, and it's continually updating stuff. But what we're going to be doing today, we'll get to all that. We're going to be doing the research paper, putting it all together, and much like has been occurring before, we are going to require yet just another little change. So I apologize to anybody that was looking at Canvas for the due dates for the results and discussion section. So if you recall on previous versions of the syllabus, those two were due separately on two different due dates. And what I decided to do was to combine the two so that when you're reviewing, you get, okay, here are the results and here are the discussion. And it also gave us a little bit more time to work on the results section. So just so we're absolutely clear, it was moved everywhere except for Canvas, and I apologize that again, but it was moved from midnight yesterday to midnight tomorrow. So the due date was midnight tomorrow for your results and discussion draft. However, just today I was looking over these things and just some of the questions that students have been asking. I want to make sure that just in case there's any sort of final results section issues that need to be resolved, we're going to have, as part of the research paper, putting it all together class next time, we're going to put that as a last chance stats workshop. So this will be your chance to bring in either your raw data, hopefully maybe just your SPSS output, and if you have any questions about what does this mean, what is it, did I run the right test, we're going to try to do a workshop type thing to kind of help make sure that people are on the right track. Because of that, it kind of seems weird to have the results and discussion draft due the midnight before we have our final chance to fix the results draft. So because of that, for this one time only, I'm moving the deadline to midnight on the Thursday, not on the Wednesday. All right, so you're going to get yourself another 24 hours to do that. So we'll be in class. You know, if you're like, oh, I don't know what this, these results mean, we'll be able to discuss that. And then you can go home and you have until midnight to upload those. And I really don't want to move them anymore because we are going to have to do the results and discussion peer reviews in a timely manner so that you can get your feedback returned so that you then have enough time to do it for the final research paper. So that's what we're doing. I'll send around an announcement. It's going to be due March 21st by midnight. And next class, we're going to have our results section workshop kind of how-to thing. All right, so one last thing about the peer reviews. I had noticed that there's no way to set a due date in Canvas for the peer reviews. And I've Googled this. I've been on blogs and chat groups and everything. They don't have that feature in Canvas. So it will assign you a peer review as soon as the deadline passes. So because I wasn't able to update it, some of you have already been assigned peer reviews. But there is no Canvas deadline for the peer reviews. That deadline is only in the syllabus. So that's why you can actually access these peer reviews as you go through. It was, I did not know how to set those because actually they don't exist, so I don't feel so bad. But just bear that in mind. We got one more draft that we need to peer review, one more section draft that we need to peer review. And you'll get those Thursday at midnight. They'll be assigned if they haven't already been assigned. And then check the syllabus for when they're due. I believe they're due Monday by midnight as well. Mm-hmm.
Are we going to be able to resubmit?
Yes.
Okay, so
yes.
It's not going to mess up the peer review, assign?
It shouldn't.
Okay.
It shouldn't. Has anybody, let me ask this, has anybody done a peer review yet? You've done a peer review. Okay. Anybody else done a peer review? Okay, so what I'm going to do this. If you've already been assigned a peer review, we're not going to make you do extras. What I'm going to do is right after this class, I'm going to go in. I'm going to delete out all the peer reviews except for yours. So anybody else? Does anybody else on a peer review? Let's last check. Okay, so everybody but yours is going to get deleted out. You'll get reassigned peer reviews once everybody has submitted theirs. So do submit like a later version of your draft. That'll be completely fine. All right. Anything else? Yep.
I've only done 2 out of the 3 I've been assigned. Should I abstain from doing the 3rd?
Yeah, let's abstain from the 3rd for now, and I'll delete that one out, and you'll get reassigned a new peer review.
So when should we start peer reviewing them?
The peer reviews will be assigned Thursday midnight.
Okay.
So you'll have Friday, the weekend, Monday to get those 3 drafts peer reviewed. We're good? All right. This is like research in like a classroom setting, you know, it's the unpredictability of it. I'm kind of used to it in the lab, but thanks for bearing with us on this. Here we go. On this journey here. All right. So once again, just in case we forgot over spring break, we're moving towards the end game here. Right? We're getting near the end of this entire journey. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the research paper draft, the research paper peer reviews, and the reason I make those that due earlier than later is because it's going to directly inform your conference talk and your poster session. So I find that students, once they have the big project done, it's much easier to go in there and kind of pick and choose and edit down for your poster talk and your conference talk presentation. But today specifically, we're going to take a look at the research paper draft and what we need to do once we've written those final sections to put it all together. So I'll mention the URC Abstract Submissions, and then we'll go through the steps of putting the final paper together. And just so everybody is aware, next class, we're going to have the statistics workshop. So it's going to be in here. And what I'm hoping to do is, again, if you've run your SPSS statistics and you have your output and you have any questions about your output, message those to me. So anything that you might want me to take a look at, please message those to me so I can have a little bit of a preview of what's going on. But we're basically just going to have you come in and ask your questions. What does this mean? Did I do the right test? I don't know how to do a post hoc analysis. How do I do a post hoc analysis? I couldn't find that. I see my p-value is less than 0.05, but what does that actually mean? I have an interaction. How do I know where my interaction is from? So we can kind of get all those things done, and that's what we're going to try to do next time in the stats workshop. So please send me any kind of questions that you might have in advance, and hopefully we'll see if this is going to be working out for everyone. All right, so back to the regularly scheduled class. So URC abstracts. I've already taken a look at a few of them, sent back some comments. So I'll be taking a look at the rest today and early tomorrow. I'll send them back to you with the comments. And then what you want to do is if you're able to present at the URC, and again, highly recommend that you do, you're going to want to go to their website. There's the link that'll take you there. Use this link if Google is not working for you. So when you put in IUSB Undergraduate Research Conference, the first link, I think, takes you to a dead page. The second result takes you to the actual page. Or you can just take the file here, click on that. It'll take you to here. This is where you want to go. But just a few last things about what you need to include when you submit your work. So you'll have your name, you'll have your major, your phone number, your address. Your department is going to be psychology. And then faculty sponsor, that's going to be me. So they have, it helps them organize the program. And it also helps them know for the awards for, outstanding presentation, honorable mentions. It lets them know who has helped out certain projects so there's no conflict of interest, so that I can basically say, oh, I'm the supervisor on that project, so I won't contribute to the discussion for the award. So include me as a faculty sponsor. Title of work, this is completely up to you at this point. So this does not have to match your IRB protocol. It does not have to match what you put in your student information sheet or what's listed on SONA. This is the title of your presentation. So feel free to, not glam it up, but feel free to, have a title that's going to be attention grabbing. You can change it whatever way you like, but just something that will let the audience member know when they're seeing this in the URC program what your presentation is about, and it'll help them determine whether they want to attend or not. Co-presenter, co-author, none of you have that. Abstract, this is where you cut and paste the abstracts that you've submitted. And then in terms of the format, just to be completely clear on this, you're going to be choosing PowerPoint. This lets them know that you have a presentation like this that you're going to be doing. Poster is what we're going to be doing. On the final day of class, outside in the hallways when you do your poster session. Paper is if you do not need any tech in order to project your presentation. So paper is basically, today I'm going to read to you from my paper that I published on the effects of metaphors on, nobody chooses paper. Don't do paper. We're going to be choosing PowerPoint. And then, there's a lunch. Choose a lunch that you prefer. And I do highly recommend go to the lunch. There's always a guest speaker. It's always nice to kind of, share some time with your fellow researchers. And then you have these little acknowledgements here. And we're going to get you prepared for the URC, for the conference. But if you would also, like to attend their brief conference, pre-conference workshop, they got that on April 5th at noon. So you can, go to that as well. Just let them know that you're on your way. And then you hit submit, and you've submitted to the URC. So again, I will be giving back comments either tonight or tomorrow morning. Look for that. Get your comments back. This is due by Friday, so you got plenty of time to make any changes you might need. Mm-hmm.
So, do they have it split up into sections, like different, like we're only presenting with other psychology students, or do we see everyone present there?
So the way that it works is there's different sessions, and there's a morning session, there's an afternoon session. And there's different rooms that they have the kind of different sessions in. So what they do, once they get kind of all the abstracts, they'll go through them and they'll try to see what 4 presentations would make sense as a group. So, they'll see if there's, for example, we have projects here on political viewpoints, right? Those 2 will probably be grouped together. And then it'll take a look at other presentations that have been submitted, and they'll say, oh, is there anything else here that has like this political bent to it? So you will be in a room presenting with probably 3 other like-minded or in the same area projects.
And then who attends? Is it just like professors at the university, or are there other people who come?
Typically, we're going to try to get people to attend. But typically, it will be your fellow presenters, a moderator, a judge, and maybe 2 other students. So as much as we try to get people to attend, sometimes attendance is sparse.
Okay.
So it is open to the public. Anybody can attend. We will, as part of that social media development program, try to promote some of the events. But typically it's other students will be there, other professors will be there as well. But at the very least, you'll have a moderator that'll be there, probably me for a lot of your sessions. And the moderator is there just to make sure that things move along, to make sure that the first presenter doesn't take 45 minutes out of the hour, to handle any questions, things like that. You'll probably have a professor in there that's judging for the awards. Sometimes it's the moderator. Your other panelists will be there in attendance as well, and then maybe 3 to 4 students. I know that some faculty do give bonus points for people attending the URC. So yeah, that'll be your general audience.
And then do they ask us a lot of questions? Like what happens if we get asked a question we're not pretty sure how to answer?
You will get asked questions. There will be usually time left for questions. So typically what is done, they're hour-long sessions, and they'll do 15 minutes per presenter with the recommendation that you go 12 minutes with 3 minutes left for questions. And then you will be asked questions, and we will dedicate entire classes to strategies for dealing with questions. Because I know that for myself, before I learned these strategies as well, you worry about what would I do? Because your work. You'll be sitting up there in front of your slides that you made, and you'll know that down pat. You'll know that inside and out. But there's always that back of the mind worry that somebody's going to be like, I'm going to ask you a question, and this is going to cut to the heart of your project and show that it's useless, and you're like, oh no, what am I going to do? There are strategies for dealing with any questions. There's strategies for identifying what I call mean questions. So there are some questions that just cannot be answered, and they are mean questions. So for example, any sort of how do you know question is oftentimes a mean question. So if I really didn't like you and I was at your conference and I was like, I want to destroy you, I could pop up and say, well, how do you know that your subjects followed your instructions? How do you know that your results aren't just your subjects randomly clicking? And that's a mean question because there's no way to know, right? You can't know that. So we're going to deal with those. We're going to say, these are the things you should know. If somebody puts up their hand and says, what was this statistical test that you ran? You should be able to stand up there and say, I did an ANOVA. And it was a 2x2 ANOVA. So some things you need to know. Other things like the how could you know questions, they're mean. Those ones you need to be able to identify. And you get to the point, and the strategy is basically just admitting, there's no way I could possibly know, right? That's not something that anyone could know. And typically, though, what you'll find in these, the types of questions, will get you ready for any question. So there are strategies that we're going to go over when it comes time for questions that will allow you to handle any question that comes your way. But typically, what you'll get in at the URC, and really at any conference, are some detailed questions. So things like, can you give me an example of a question on your survey that measured this? Or, how did you score, the levels of conformity? How did you do that? So sometimes you'll get detailed questions, but oftentimes you'll get speculate questions, such as, oh, why do you think this might have occurred? Or you found this result. Do you think that means this? And those are really nice and really fun because they're basically your invitation to speculate. They're literally saying, there's no right or wrong answer to this. Well, what do you think? What do you think about this? Based on your research, what do you think is the application to, to social media? What do you think are the implications for, tolerance given, the reactions to immigrants or whatever? And that really is one of my favorite types because they're literally saying, you can make it up on the spot. What do you think based on what you have? And again, we'll talk about how to deal with those as well. But those are the two big major type of questions. A little bit of detailed questions and other ones where it's kind of like speculate questions. All right. Anything else URC related? Okay. So putting the final paper together. And one last thing for the URC. Once again, I highly recommend submit your URC abstracts, go to the URC, present it there. You're going to have to do a presentation regardless of whether you go to the URC or not for this class as part of the class. So what better way to kind of like double down and take advantage of this opportunity than to do what you're going to need to do at a place where you can actually make an impact. So I highly recommend plan to go to the URC. If you absolutely cannot, so if you have work commitments, for example, and your boss is just saying, no, you cannot take that day off, then do remember that we have those 2 days scheduled in class for in-class presentations for people that cannot go to the URC, or those are going to be on the Tuesday and the Thursday before the URC. If you want to just do a dry run in class, if you want to kind of say, all right, here's my presentation now, I just want to see if it works, just want to test it out, you know, do a dress rehearsal, you can use that for those days as well. So in the meantime, we still got weeks before that, but just let me know as you're kind of, you know, figuring this out. If you want to do a dry run, let me know. I'll schedule it in, and we'll make sure that we got time for that. All right, research paper, putting it all together. So this, what we're going to talk about today is what you are going to have in your final complete article. So your results section and your discussion section, those are due again Thursday at midnight. I'll send out the announcement. And then those are your final 2 major sections that you're going to write. And then the last thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to put it all together in a final research paper. So what is it that we need to do to make sure that we have that all together? So we're going to talk about the title today, author information, abstract, keywords, introduction, methods, results, and discussion, and in general, text with in-text citations in APA style, numbered captions for any figures or tables, image uploads, what you do with those, acknowledgments if you need it, competing interests, references, and finally your author bio. So this is what we're going to cover today. And the first thing that I want to let everybody know is that this is the order that you're going to have everything in terms of your paper. So you are going to have a title on your title page with the author information. You're going to have on your next page an abstract with the keywords. Then you have the intro, the methods, the results, and the discussion. These are going to go throughout your paper, but after your discussion, include your acknowledgments if you need to acknowledge somebody for the help that they gave you. Your statement of competing interests. None of you have competing interests, but we need to mention that. Your references, and then finally your author bio. And we're going to go over what all of those entail today. All right, so your title page. Your title, you're going to want it to be a maximum of 16 words. There shouldn't be an issue. And what I recommend, and this isn't required, but what I do recommend is that if it's possible, indicate the direction of your results. That is a very friendly title. So you don't have to mention all of your results, but you can usually indicate some pattern of results in your title. So for example, if you were doing political affiliations, you know, the psychology of whether you identify as a Democrat or Republican, you know, you found that there were differences in word use. All right, let's only use your own there. So let's say that you found that there were differences in word use. A title that would cover, you know, would be a usable title would be something like, you know, liberals versus conservative viewpoints, effects on word use. That tells you everything you need to know. It tells you that it's going to be about political views. It tells you it's going to be about word use. It's an effective title. But a much nicer title would be, if you have results, indicate the direction. So something like liberals use more past tense verbs than conservatives. Conservatives tend to use more, you know, future tense verbs than liberals. So if you can indicate the direction, it's not required, but if possible, it's very nice just to let them know, oh, we see an increase here, or we see a decrease, or these people scored higher than these. Again, if you can, but make sure that those, it's only 16 words. All right, so this is your title page here. Other thing on your title page is going to be your author information. Your author information is going to be your full name or your full professional name. So some people drop their middle initial. If you changed your last name, some people keep their previous name if they've already published under it. So whatever it is, you know, use your professional name. Your affiliation, which is going to be Indiana University, South Bend. You're going to include your country, USA. and your institutional email. So the institutional email, this is your kind of like your official email. This will be your IUSB email. And this is included in your author information because when you publish your article, readers need a point of contact. And typically, if you're the first author, you're going to be also what's known as the corresponding author. And if they have any questions, or maybe if they want to reprint, or if they're interested in some of your stimuli, for example, they know who to contact. They got that email there. So we're going to be including that as well on your title page. So that's your title page, title, and then your author information. And on page 2, so that was page 1, title page. Page 2 is where you have your abstract and only your abstract. Page 2 is completely dedicated to that one paragraph of the abstract plus your keywords. So your abstract summarizes the contents of the manuscript, and it's going to be exactly what we did for your URC abstract. So 1 to 2 sentences for each of those sections. So feel free to just take your URC abstract, and if it's in good condition and if it covers all of these, use it as your final research paper abstract. If you need to update it because you've gotten more results between now and when this draft is due, do that as well. But it's basically going to be what you wrote for your URC submission. Included right underneath the abstract, you're also going to have keywords. So keywords, you typically want between 5 to 6 keywords. And keywords are basically measured by not how many words there are, but how many keywords there are. So for example, if you have political, comma, bias, comma, that's 2 keywords. But if you have political bias, comma, that's 1 keyword. It's the keyword of political bias. So typically you're going to be going between 5 and 6 kind of group keywords, right? If that makes any sense. They're going to be separated by commas. So you got 4 to 5 commas that you'll be using if that helps, thinking it along those ways. And what you want to do, and this is a good way to get your keywords, is feel free to borrow keywords from your references. So your references, the psychologist that you got your background information from, the reason you're using it as background information is because it's in the area that you were researching. So the keywords that they use are going to be, you can think of it as almost the standard for the industry. It's not an industry, standard for the discipline, right? You can almost think of like those are the keywords that our discipline uses. So feel free to just take a look at the abstracts of your research papers. Take a look at the keywords that they have listed there and say, oh, that's a good keyword. That exactly is what we looked at. I was going to call it, conformity. They called it social monitoring. I'm going to use social monitoring instead. Feel free to do that as well. All right, so that's the end of page 2. You got your abstract, you got your keywords. And then we're going to talk about just in general what you want to have. So once you start page 3 starts with the introduction. Once your introduction is done, your methods is next. So if your introduction finishes halfway down the page, your methods section starts right when your introduction is done. You don't start these on new pages unless just by chance they start on your new page. After the methods, you got the results section. After the results section, you got your discussion section. And make sure that your in-text citations are in APA style. So make sure that if they're in text, if they're parentheses, however it is that you're citing them, they're in APA style. If you got multiple citations, they are ordered by author, not by date. So just make sure that you're double checking your resources in terms of how to do citations in APA style for your in-text citations. Figures. You have to number your figures. You got to number your tables. So your charts, your pictures, your cartoons, your graphs, those all need to be numbered in the order with which they appear. They have to be referenced in the text. So this is very important. You just can't put a picture there for decoration. At some point, you need to, in your text, tell your reader go see figure 1. So if you got figure 1 there, at some point in your text, you have to say blah, 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 this, and this, go see figure 1. So make sure that you're using that. So for example, most of you will have figures for your results, right? Because we need to show pictures of what we're talking about. Make sure that if you have that graph, which is figure number 2, at some point in your results section, it says, see figure 2. So it's got to be referenced in the text. Referred to in the text. For your references, you need to include any copyright information, and it has to come from where you retrieved your image. So this is why we were using Wiki Commons. They have a repository of images that are free to use. They're public domain or Creative Commons licensees, which means that as long as you cite them, you're allowed, to use them. So especially if you use Wiki Commons, you can take a look at the page from which you got the image, and it will list who owns the copyright, what the image is called, what is referred to. And then you can look up APA for referencing images, and it'll tell you how to format that reference. But you need that information for any copyrighted information that you have, any basically images that are not your own. You have 2 options in terms of how you want to insert your figures into your final draft. Option number 1 is that you just insert captions as placeholders indicating where the image should actually go. So this can be done just by simply centering the words insert figure 1 approximately here. And then later on you just have text that says insert figure 2 approximately here. And then at the end of your paper, you would have figure number 1, figure number 2. That used to be the typical way that people would do it. So that's one option. However, you can also, You can also insert your figures and captions in text as you go along. So you can actually, when you submit your final Word document, have the figures in the text where you want them. So if you say, blah, 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 this, and this, see figure 1, you can actually put figure 1 in the text. So it's right there. And then below it, just keep typing, the rest of your information. If you go this route, I will warn you, Word is a little finicky when you add figures. So I would recommend do it full text. Try out a few of the options, because if you put it tight versus in line with text versus up and above, it will do different things to your text. I still haven't figured it out myself, but just bear that in mind. And if you do find yourself not able to do this, just feel free to put that insert figure 1 approximately here and put your figures at the end of your paper on separate pages. While we're talking about figures, remember you have to use, if you're using images that are not your own, that you did not create, they have to come from a usable database. I recommend Wiki Commons. You will have to provide the information for the image in your references, and that's one of the reasons why I highly recommend Wiki Commons, because each page has who to cite, what the figure's name is, where did you access it. So again, if you grabbed anything from Wiki Commons, if this is figure 2, you need to reference it. If this is figure 3, it needs to be referenced. The only things that don't need to be referenced are original images that you own the copyright to. And you own the copyright if you created the image. So for example, all the graphs that you're going to be making in Excel, those are images that you created. If you want to use a screenshot from your Qualtrics surveys, that's an image that you created. If you do a screenshot of something that's in your Qualtrics survey that's copyright, then you did not create that image, even though you screenshot it. It's not like taking a picture of the Mona Lisa allows you to print that, on every T-shirt that you want. You have to own the copyright to. But basically, this is going to apply to graphs, figures that you make, that you yourself create. All right. So one of the things that we're working towards is a final publishable version of your research paper. So I really do want to make sure that everybody here has the opportunity to actually publish this paper in a journal. For example, in the journal that I founded, that Journal of Cognition and Diversity. And one of the things that we need in order to publish is we do need high-res images of your figures, and we need those separately. So for your final research paper, for that final one that you submit to Canvas, after everything's been done, after you've gotten your peer reviews and everything, this is the last version of it. You are also going to include some image uploads. So these are going to be submitted as separate image files. So whatever they are, PNGs, JPEGs, GIFs, whatever format you have them in. They will be uploaded to Canvas as supplementary files. Please make sure that the files are named with the figure number. So figure 1, the upload for that should be called figure 1. Figure 2, the upload for that should be renamed figure 2. So it might be, hippocampus structure might be the name of the original download. When you upload it, figure 1, you got to rename that. So make sure that they're named with the figure number and that they've actually been captioned and numbered in the manuscript file as well. So you let me know. Figure 1 goes approximately here. Here's the caption. And you can, in addition, embed these image files in your manuscript file, but they do need to be sent separately so that the editors can work with these files to get the manuscripts ready for publication. All right. What else we got? So any questions on figures, images, things like that? Yep.
So it's sending and uploading all the files one, and that's for the publishing, right?
Yeah, that's for your final research paper. So not for your draft. So we got one last review that's going to come up when you upload your final paper draft. For that one, you just have to have the figures embedded or, in the Word document. Okay. But when you submit your final version of it, right, where you're like, this is it, I'm done, that one's also going to include separate image files for each of your figures. All right, any other questions about the images? Okay, references. So references, hopefully this goes without saying, you got to have APA references for all your citations, including your figures. So you will have your figures if you borrowed them. If you're using figures from Wiki Commons, you will have them in your reference section. So you will have the artist, the name of the figure, where you retrieved it from in your reference section. And for most of you who are using online sources, include those URLs and also any relevant identifiers, which is that digital object identifier. Include those in your references as well. Digital object identifiers come on basically every single article now. So make sure that you include those. You might find the odd article that does not have one of those, but they're being dispersed through basically all the articles. So include those as well. Check your APA style guides for where to include your digital object identifiers. They're at the end of your references. But again, double check that. And in terms of your references, feel free to use the EBSCOhost citation tool that they have. So when you're looking at your article, for myself, I know sometimes it's hard to find what the volume was. It's hard to find which issue was this from. It's sometimes hard to find the full name of the journal. Sometimes on the article, they'll have JExp Gen Sci. And I'm like, what's JExp Gen Sci? I need the full name. What is that? So you can go to the databases we have here at the library. You can go to EBSCOhost and just re-find your article. You got the entire title there, so it should be pretty easy to find it. And then when you do, you can hit their citation tool link. It's there on the right side, and it'll pop up that article cited in just about 20 different formats. So just scroll down until you see APA. You can copy and paste that, double check it. It'll get you like 98% of the way there, but it does occasionally make errors. But at the same time, it does let you, gives you the page numbers, the volumes, all that kind of stuff. So feel free to use that as well to save yourself some time. All right, so that's the last thing in terms of what you're going to need to do APA style content-wise. Any questions on anything? All right, so we got a few more things that we need to do, and this is specifically for publication. So this is specifically to allow your article to be published in a professional journal. So the first thing we need is a statement regarding competing interests. And this is just a requirement that journals will have just to make sure that you haven't been bought by big whatever, right? It's an easy way to make any organization or area sound evil is just to put big in front of it. So people are always like, oh, big pharmacy, you got big media, you know, big orphanages. Oh my gosh, it's like you can make anything sound evil. All right, but anyways, they want to know, are you directly gaining in any financial way from the publication of this article? You are not. If you are, please tell me how you did it, but you're probably not. So if not, all you got to do is put at the end of your research paper, again, it'll be check that outline for where to put it. Well, you just put the author has no competing interest to declare. That just means that you have not making money off of this, nobody paid you to do this, you're not biased in any way. That's what that statement means. So you'll probably all have those. If you do have competing interests, put the author declares the following competing interests. I am also employed, you know, at Microsoft. So my analysis of the impact of Facebook, you know, might have been biased. Whatever it is, you just list the competing interest there. Most of you will have that. But we do need this. We do need your this is considered your signed declaration of, you know, I have no competing interests. Your author bio. So we're also going to include this. This is a very brief description of yourself, just to give people a little bit of background so that they know who you are. And you can kind of work off of this example. This is a very typical author bio. This is usually what I send in when I send in my author bio. So, you know, Igor Yudichevich holds a PhD in experimental psychology, University of Toronto. He's an associate professor at Indiana University South Bend. His research interests include picture perception in both vision and touch. He is currently focusing on the perception of metaphorical pictures and on developing a system for transmodal translation processes to translate visual pictures into touch pictures for the blind. So just a little something like that. You're currently a student, you're graduating soon, your research interests are this, your long-term goals are this. Just a little something. It doesn't have to be very long, but these author bios are often a nice little way of letting people know who is it that this person is, and also kind of what stage in their career are they. So we'll include that as well. And again, feel free to use this as a template and just modify it. And to my knowledge, none of you came from the University of Toronto. So again, change it as you need it, and feel free to use that. All right. So that is your end of the things. Any questions on those? Okay, so before we kind of wrap up today, I just want to mention a few things that are on my end of stuff. So the first thing has to do with copyright notices. And whenever you publish, this is just good advice for your future. When you publish in a journal, always kind of make sure to just double check the copyright rules of the journal. So there are some journals who will say things like, when you publish with us, you only publish with us, and this article can never appear anywhere else. And then there's other journals where they'll say, when you publish with us, we get first publication rights, but you are free to do whatever else you want with your article. So there's different levels of how much they will allow you to do with your own article after being published. So just so that you know, I got some policies for the Journal of Cognition and Diversity. So when you publish with the article with the journal, basically your submission to the journal is your indication of agreeing to the following terms. So for my journal, authors retain the copyright and grant the journal the right of first publication with the work simultaneously licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution license that allows others to share the work with an acknowledgement of the work's authorship and initial publication in this journal. So basically what this means is that you are free to take your article and publish it anywhere else that you want. You want to put it on a blog? Absolutely. You want to modify it and submit it to a newspaper for their science section? Absolutely. Whatever you want to do with the article, that's fine. But if you do reproduce the article, it just needs, or anybody who reproduces the article, so this will be out in the public, if they reproduce the article, they will acknowledge that it was your work. So nobody else can steal your work. They need to acknowledge that it was your work and that it was initially published in that journal. Those are the only requirements. So we got that policy there. Authors are able to enter into separate additional contractual arrangements for the non-exclusive distribution of the journal's published version of the work. For example, post it to an institutional repository or publish it in a book with an acknowledgement of its initial publication in this journal. So you can also basically take your work and as it stands in the journal, right? So you can literally download the PDF from the journal and say, I'm going to submit this for publication in this particular book. And you'll have the right to do that as well. So you basically maintain kind of full copyright on this, on your work when you publish in this. And you can do whatever you like with it. You can take it, put it up on a website. You can take it, put it in the book. You can take it, present it anywhere you like. So it's a very open kind of policy. This is, as mentioned in the third, authors are permitted and actually encouraged to post their work online, institutional repositories on their website, as it can lead to productive exchanges as well as earlier and greater citation of public work. So put it on your website, submit it to the Indiana University institutional repositories that they have here, whatever you want to do with it, get it out there, tweet it. If people come to you and they say, oh, I can't find the website, can you send me a copy of the PDF? Send them as many copies as you want. I know that some journals, especially subscription-based journals, they have kind of like moratoriums between a year to 2 years where you can't even give copies of your work away because they are trying to recoup the costs of publication. So I know in one of the journals that I published, and they gave me a link that I could share with anybody that was requesting copies of my article, and that link had a counter on it, and it expired after, I believe, 50 downloads. So that was their extent of allowing me to share my work. For the first 2 years, I could share 50 downloads worth of the work, and I had to agree to that. I had to agree that I would not post this on my website. For my journal, you can. You can do whatever you like with your work. So once again, just kind of show you what it is that I founded. This was the cover for Volume 1, Number 1. So it's a Journal of Cognition and Diversity. There's cover for Number 2. This was actually the favorite cover of the people that published so far. So this was the gender diversity issue. It's pink and blue. It's awesome. But it is available on Amazon Prime, so it's available at better book distributors everywhere, so you can buy a copy if you so wish on Amazon Prime. It's also at Barnes & Nobles, but it is for free on my website, so don't buy a copy. You can access anything that you want for free off of the Polite and Sane Research website, and I'm still working on getting issue 2 and issue 3 up. It's going to take a little bit of time. I've been focusing on other stuff. But this is basically what you're working for towards, or one option that you have towards the end.
So when you're saying for submitting it and editors will be looking at it, will they send it back to us and edit stuff, or do they just, you know what I'm saying? Because you're talking about like editors looking over it.
Yeah. So in a typical journal, what occurs is you'll first, the kind of steps are you submit it to the journal, and an editor will look at it, and they will make the initial determination of whether it fits or it doesn't fit in the journal. So if you submitted a developmental psychology experiment to a perception journal, and it's the development of emotions, and it's the journal of perception, the editor will say, not right for the journal. Or if the editor decides, yeah, it's right for the journal, they will then send it out for review. So the reviews will then take a look at your article and say, this is good, this is not, this needs work, change this over here, and then they'll send it back to you, and you'll make those changes, and then you'll send it back, and it'll go through another round of review. And that goes back and forth as much as needed before the reviewers are like, yes, let's do this. And then you get that final version published. For my journal here, these are called the SOS articles. These are the Spotlight on Student articles. So they are filled with student research. Because of that, you guys are actually the peer reviewers for this work. So the peer reviews that we are going through in this class count as the peer reviews for this particular publication. So by the time that you give in that final version of your article, and you'll also hand in, these are the changes that I made in all of my drafts, I will consider myself to be the final review. That has already been reviewed, it's already been changed and modified, and I will be the final review and kind of make that final determination. All right, so kind of wrap things up here. One final thing. I retain the copyright, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, no, I don't know where this came from again. All right, so basically you retain the copyright. You can do what you like with your article. And what I'm doing for this opportunity here, I'm going to consider your intent to publish with the journal. I'm going to assume that with the assignment submission. So I'm going to take it for granted. You can we'll put it that way. That when you submit your final research paper, that you are basically saying, I would like this to be considered for publication in the Journal of Cognition and Diversity. So that's going to be my assumption. However, if you, for whatever reason, do not wish to publish your work. So let's say, for example, that you have some groundbreaking, just blew your mind results. And you took a look at those results and you're like, oh my gosh, I really want to publish this in the top journal in this field, right? I got this who knew result and I really want to publish it in the top journal in my field. And you go to that top journal and they have their copyright guidelines, and their copyright guidelines say articles submitted here must not have been published anywhere else previously. And you read that and you say to yourself, you know what? I want to take a chance with this top journal. I'm deciding not to submit to the Journal of Cognition and Diversity. That is completely up to you. That is completely fine. So all I need is just a Canvas message, right? Just a Canvas message that says, I would like to withdraw my paper from consideration, or I'm choosing not to submit the Journal of Cognition and Diversity for publication. So I just want to make this clear. So once again, I will assume, right, this is an opt-out thing. I will assume that when you submit, you are intending to submit it for publication. If that's not the case for any reason, and it's not going to impact your grade at all, this is just an extra opportunity. But if for whatever reason you decide, no, I want to explore other avenues, just let me know. Just a Canvas message that says, I'm opting out, and that'll be completely fine. All right, so once again, that's your order. Title, author information, abstract and keywords, your major sections. Make sure you do this throughout. Acknowledgements come after your discussion, then your statement of competing interests, then your references. Finish it all up with an author bio. Put that all together. You'll have your final research paper. Any final questions about anything we covered today? It's all good? All right, so that's all that I wanted to cover for today. So next class, we are going to have our stats workshop. Okay, so once again, this is your opportunity for any last minute kind of statistical stuff. So if you're wondering how to interpret your two-way ANOVA, if you don't know how to do a post hoc analysis, if you're worried that you formatted your data wrong, this is when we're going to have that opportunity to kind of work those last little kinks out. So because of that, if you can kind of give me a heads up, maybe sometime tomorrow, just send me a message that says, here's my Excel sheet of my data. I'm doing an ANOVA, and did I set it up right? It'll just help the class go a little bit smoother. This is the first time I'm trying to workshop, so we'll see how it goes. But that's what we're going to be doing next class. So if there's no other questions, we're done for the day. Thanks for coming by.
I have some questions for you.
Okay.
My first one.